Thank you, everyone, and welcome. I'm so pleased to see you all here. My name is Camille Crittenden. I'm Deputy Director of CITRIS, and I've had the great fortune and fun to work with my colleagues at INRIA and here at CITRIS and at EIT Digital to plan this conference today. I'd like to take the next 5 to 10 minutes or so just to frame the conversation a little bit. We've already had some provocative questions and thoughts from the welcoming remarks, and I'm sure that many more will arise throughout the day. I just want to give you a little bit of an overview for what we'll be talking about and the different aspects of data and data ownership for us to consider, and an encouragement to think about toward the end of the day, what will our response be? What kind of outcomes might we anticipate or could we create or imagine over the course of the day? At CITRIS, as Kostas mentioned, our mandate is IT research in the interest of society. Often this means developing new technologies, new devices, applications, and materials, but we also aim to incorporate perspectives from a variety of disciplines that consider the broader context of the technology that we're developing. So looking at big data, especially in the interest of society, requires us to think not only about data storage, transmission, and analysis, but also the human interface in policy issues, business practices, healthcare, academic research, and social media. Questioning who owns the data also fits well within the Data and Democracy Initiative, and the colleague who will come to introduce our first keynote speaker was the faculty director of the Data and Democracy Initiative, which is being transformed now into Connected Communities. But I want to pay tribute in a way to some of the work that's happened over the last couple of years under this flag, the Data and Democracy Initiative. So raising the question of data ownership encourages us to think about individual rights versus collective claims, so public benefit versus corporate claims or private gain. Giving individuals better tools and policies to exercise greater agency over their own data may shift the balance of power among those contributing data versus those aggregating and analyzing it. If individuals have a right to be forgotten, should we also have a right to donate our data for a good cause or to realize some kind of personal benefit from it? So what kind of data do we mean? And I'm sure many examples will come up today. If data is construed as intellectual property, some protections are already in place. Consider copyright for creative work distributed online, streaming music or video, or other digital content creation. These rights are contested and shifting, but they borrow from established frameworks and legal protections. Emerging, less regulated data sources include personal behavior traces like social media clicks, online searches, financial transactions, reading habits from library records, educational performance, health records, or criminal justice records. These we may be aware of because they require our active, conscious participation in the transaction. We may have signed a dense end-user license agreement at some point that we barely remember, but in any case, we're taking some kind of action to click on a link. Other transactions, as Kostas alluded to, are more ephemeral or go undetected. They may be swept up in sensor networks, part of the Internet of Things. So for example, in transportation, you have the fast pass or the intersection cameras, utility usage records, commercial surveillance. Data libertarians might say that companies are providing a service by gathering and analyzing your data in order to serve you more customized products and advertisements. But what are the broader ethical tensions between individual privacy and institutional interests, whether that might be companies trying to sell you products or government agencies on the lookout for national security threats? The power is vastly unbalanced between the consumer and the service provider. So that leads to the question, what benefit might be returned to me? This could be a financial benefit. It could be advancing research on a specific disease that I care about. Or what options could be created? And this is where I want the smart technology folks in the room to be thinking about what new options or technologies can be created for more fine-grained control and permission for usage of my data. Some organizations, researchers, and performance artists, indeed, are thinking about these questions and developing tools. So you might be familiar with this group in the UK called Hub of All Things. It's a research team that is creating a personal data platform to trade and exchange individuals' own data collected from devices and sensors for services mapping the data into standardized and structured formats. There's a medical team affiliated with UCSF that's creating Free the Data. It's an online platform for those with a particular genomic profile that allows them to share permission in a very granulated kind of way to be used in medical research. And in another case, a graduate student, also in the UK, has incorporated herself in order to test the bounds of personal data ownership. So I'm hoping that more ideas and creative thoughts will emerge out of the conversations today. We're really delighted to have two excellent keynote speakers to present views from the US and Europe to discuss this range of topics. Brewster Kahle, the founder and director of the Internet Archive, and Francisco Garcia Moran, the chief IT advisor to the European Commission. We'll also have 3 panels. The first panel this morning is on public data and private interests. So the participants there will discuss ownership, management, and distribution of data whose provenance is from public records or publicly funded research. So here we sit in a public institution. INRIA also is a public institution. We receive public funds. Who is responsible for ensuring that the benefits of the research that happens here with public money are being distributed and made available? There are a number of people here on campus who are grappling with these ideas through research data management kind of projects. And in fact, federal agencies, as many of you probably know, like the NIH or the NSF, also are creating new requirements for making data available and publishing data sets. Private foundations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation also recently implemented a policy that any research funded by them must be made publicly available. The second panel this afternoon is on privacy and personal data. So of course, privacy issues are really key when we're talking about open data and making data available and questions of data ownership. This comes up frequently, most recently in a high-profile way, perhaps with Hillary Clinton's private email server. So when she was a public servant, she still had private email. Where are the boundaries and relationships between those two entities? And considerations of privacy and data security will be considered in this panel. The last panel I'm really looking forward to because this is an emerging area that I think has a lot of opportunity for growth and creative thinking in data philanthropy and corporate social responsibility. So how could data be considered alongside resources like time and money as something that we have that could be given away for greater benefit? If you create more trustworthy systems online, might you increase opportunities for research in healthcare and precision medicine? How are companies considering their own data? So for instance, Google and Twitter have arrangements where they can give a certain portion of their data to academic research. Are there other companies that might incorporate that into their corporate social responsibility kind of platforms, thinking about data donations alongside employee volunteer programs or other measures to ensure human rights, say, and environmental protections in the supply chain? This tag of data philanthropy, that idea was actually coined in the public sector by Robert Kirkpatrick, who runs UN Global Pulse. And he had seen where some companies had been able to give up data in times of crisis. So for example, people giving away surveillance data from cameras in the sky to imagine natural disasters and be able to monitor those and better respond to natural disasters. Could there be programs that would be developed on a more ongoing or pervasive way that might also be expanded for social benefit? So as we uncover some of these issues and questions, I encourage you again to consider what kinds of technological interventions we can imagine here with our colleagues at UC Berkeley, at CITRIS, at INRIA, and EIT Digital. We'll keep time for discussions at the coffee breaks and during lunch for you to have these conversations. And in the end of the day, I hope we'll be able to have a short wrap-up session, and I really encourage you to ask questions and provocations and seek out partners that you might be able to report back at the end of the day. Finally, I really want to thank and acknowledge our partners, INRIA and EIT Digital, along with our co-sponsors, Deutsche Telekom, the Berkeley Center for New Media, the Berkeley Institute for Data Science, the UC Berkeley Information School, and the Center for Responsible Business at the Haas School of Business. With that, I'm going to introduce my colleague Ken Goldberg, who will introduce our keynote speaker.